Malicious compliance can be the best. I'm your host, Height. Let's see who's been blessed. Our first one is from Pyreforge. Company sends a shiny HR email, subject line all caps, use it or lose it. We had to burn our remaining PTO by the 30th or it evaporates into the sun. Same day, my manager announces in stand-up that due to quarter end, no one can take time off until the 1st. I asked how to reconcile that. He shrugs and says talk to HR. HR says talk to your manager. Cute loop. So I open the handbook, because I am a petty librarian when annoyed. Page 14 has this little sentence I never noticed. PTO requests not explicitly denied in writing within 48 business hours are considered approved. There's also a note that partial day PTO is allowed in 1-hour blocks. Thank you, legal team. I submitted 10 separate requests, 2 hours every morning next week, 2 hours every afternoon the week after, a random Friday 3 to 5 to watch a plumber, and 1 full day to visit my mom. I sent the requests in our HR portal, which auto-emails the manager and CCs a shared mailbox nobody watches. Then I went back to my tasks and set reminders. 48 business hours pass. No denial. The portal changes each request to approved. Green check mark, confetti gif. Monday comes and at 9:58, I put in a cheerful note in the team chat. Heading out, see you at noon. Manager pings me to hop on a client call. I reply with a screenshot of the policy and the portal approval. Silence. Then 3 dots typing. Then nothing. By Wednesday, our calendar looked like cheese. Half the team remembered they also had PTO sitting around and started filing it in little blocks. Meetings kept colliding with green bars. Finance realized that if we do not use the days now, they would be paid out in separation later, which they hate. HR wrote a new post saying we should coordinate, but that approvals already granted stand. My manager called a huddle to ask why productivity dipped. I said we're following HR's instructions to use PTO. He said he meant in November. I sent him the original email time-stamped this month. He sighed and said he never thought anyone would actually read the handbook. I used every hour, took my mom to lunch, and my plumber fixed the cursed sink at 3:40 while I drank tea. Next week, a new policy appeared. PTO must be requested in full day increments during quarter end, and managers must respond in 24 hours. Thanks for clarifying. Truly. Like, what does management expect if HR is telling people to use their time or they're gonna lose it, and managers are denying people the ability to use that time? The fact that somebody cracked open an employee handbook says a lot, and I highly recommend everybody who has a job with one to read through it. This next one is by Inside Recess. My field of work has a high turnover and high burnout rate. As a result, my company promotes transparent conversations with staff members to ensure we are all implementing self-care, taking PTO as needed, and asking for managerial support when overwhelmed with tasks. Last year, my work began to suffer. I was struggling losing 2 close family members suddenly, and was transparent in hopes they would understand why I was withdrawn and had lower productivity. My manager wrote me up as a result of my burnout, citing that I was using our one-to-ones inappropriately, causing stress among my team with my grief, and talked about being burnt out too much. The write-up included every single one-to-one documentation of when I asked for help with burnout. Management instructed me to stop talking about burnout. No problem. I stopped bringing up burnout, being transparent, and asking support. About 2 months later, I request a 7-week leave of absence, citing extreme burnt out and mental health issues. Management was shocked and angry that I did not tell them I was struggling or burning out. I handed them a copy of my write-up and said, the action plan I received stated I could not talk about burnout anymore. Management was scolded for inadvertently creating a hostile work environment where staff couldn't ask for support. I got 7 weeks off and partial pay, and they had to cover my job for the entire time I was out. I feel like the manager who did not want to follow company policy, instead of being scolded, should have been fucking fired. Because them remaining in their position just means they'll most likely pull some fucked up shit in the future. And our final one is from Tubist61. One of the degree modules I teach involves students working on a group programming project. Nothing too elaborate, but the aim of the module is to develop skills they would need if they go on to work in the IT field. After all, if you're doing a computer science degree, you must be thinking of going down that route. This one student is an absolute entitled nightmare. He uses Gen AI for a lot of his work, and it really does show. He always pushed back on the written remarks on his work, but every time I sit him down and ask him to explain the code he produces, he struggles and often has no idea how the code he submitted works. In this project, he came up and told me he cannot work with others in the group and must work alone. I explained that there are specific group activities and efforts I would be marking, and that I needed to see his input within the group. There was no way I could excuse him from the group activities in the module. However, I could see he was not going to budge, and therefore complied with his demand to work on the project alone. All of the students in my class had been assigned to their groups, and I did check with all of them on a weekly basis. This one guy was steadfastly refusing to work with the rest of his group, and as I had complied with his request, he was working on his project alone. In my interim feedback at the end of each stage, I repeated that he should really work with the group, or he risked a failing mark for the module. I made sure this feedback was sent to him, both in hard copy and also via email with red receipts, which I kept. Cue the end of the module and the submission for marking. Sure enough, the one student submitted a project based on just his own work and had not engaged with the group he was asked to work with. There were several issues with his project. First, and most important, was it didn't meet the brief. The code simply didn't do what we asked for. He lost marks for that aspect of the project. As he had not worked with others in the group, he was not awarded any of the group marks allocated for the work. Because his code was so far away from specification, I called him in for a viva voce to explain the code, and he demonstrated a complete lack of understanding of the code he submitted. More marks dropped. His eventual mark for the assignment was a hard fail. He must now resit the entire module. There is of course one real downside to this whole thing that affects me. I've got him in my group again for the resit of the module. I honestly can't help but wonder if this guy's gonna fail the module a second time by not following the instructions given. But the fact that he's using AI for the code and can't even explain the code says he's in the wrong course. Alright, that's enough maliciousness for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Malicious Compliance. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons and super thanks contributors. Have a great day and stay safe out there.